in your hair, then I would suggest you take a lot of berries with the antioxidants. On the vegetable side, again, you've got red beans, potatoes, cabbage, celery's at the bottom, tomatoes, not a lot of antioxidants, but your antioxidants, there's a big difference between tomatoes and red beans. 400 versus 13,000. So those are the kind of things you should add to your diet if you're showing oxidative stress in your body. Now this is a 50-year-old woman, and this woman is having a lot of stress in her life, emotional stress. She's not getting along with her husband, and things are not going well. I look at the top red line, she's got some lead in her system, some mercury, but then you go to the big red line under that, that's barium, that's your bones. And the two after that, it's calcium, magnesium. So stress is making her acidic. And what does the body do? It's going to chew away at the bones to neutralize the acid in the body. So at this point, she's become acidic because of the stress in her life. She's also, you probably can't see the two little green lines in the middle, and that's sodium potassium. In a normal, healthy individual, it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. Here it's almost even. So she's got stress is showing up in the electrolyte balance. But if you go a bit further down, you've got her copper is way up, 239, it should be 12. And iron, remember I talked about that iron buildup? Stress can cause this oxidative stress, if you will. And her iron, instead of being 13, is at 71. So she's generating a lot of free radicals, kind of situation here where she's a good candidate for cancer. And if you go down, I don't know if I can point this out to you, but down here, there's selenium. And selenium should be, oh, okay, I can do it this way. Oops. Okay, selenium is right there. We talked about having enough selenium to fight the onset of cancers and so forth, and it should be about 1 part per million. She's at 0.25. She's a long ways from where she needs to be. So she's in very bad shape here. She's also got the manganese is high, which means she's starting to have sugar issues. So she's got low immune system, she's got sugar issues, she's got bone issues, and this is caused by stress in her life.
Does she have any other medical conditions, sir?
I'm sorry.
Does she have any other medical conditions or just
No.
the stress?
No.
Everything else is healthy?
I'll show you in 1 second here. Okay, this is the same woman 12 months later. She divorced this individual. She's now in a situation where she's with someone else and she's happy. Okay? You look at the calcium was at 6,000. It's down to 1,000, and it's just normal would be up to almost 900. So she's just over where it should be. Her strontium, really important for the healthier bones, is normal. Her sodium's still high, so there is some still thyroid issue possibly, but everything else is green or yellow. Her copper is down from 270, is down to, I think that number is 20. Her iron has gone from 71 to 13, it's perfect. Emotional stress at work can kill. People talk about stress kills. Well, stress can kill in a lot of different ways. This woman was a prime candidate for some serious illnesses. And the only thing she did, when I saw her the first time, I said, take something to boost your selenium. At least you've got an immune system that can fight off diseases. I didn't know there was this big emotional problem at the time, but I said, this is a terrible profile. She took some Brazil nuts, and her selenium, according to this one, is at 0.67, up from 0.25. So she's just at the start of where I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it closer to 1, but she's made a difference. And also, you'll find that selenium will reduce your mercury and your lead. It displaces. Remember, these metals compete? Well, selenium competes with the mercury and the lead, and her mercury and lead are down from where they were. Those are toxic things you don't want in your system. So anyways, she's much, much healthier, but it's an emotional stress is gone. And, you know, hopefully she'll live a long time. We're talking about other elements to worry about. Nickel. Nickel will be absorbed through your jewelry, if you have cheap costume jewelry. We're stainless steel. The men in this room probably have watches on, and there's a stainless steel back. They're proud to say stainless steel. Well, stainless steel contains nickel. So it's something to worry about. One of the things that just came out last week, they talk cancers caused by occupation. And they don't know what, but they have certain occupations have higher cancer rates. One of them was casino workers. What had chemicals in a casino? Well, you're handling coin. Handling a lot of coin. And coin has nickel. So I wouldn't be surprised it's a nickel that's causing higher cancer rates than the norm. So be careful with nickel. In Europe, they reduce any kind of surgical stainless they put in your leg, you know, or you break something, you put a stainless bar in there. Well, they really reduce the nickel in that stainless so that it doesn't cause toxicity, cause rejection. 18% of the people who they put these metal pieces in them have rejection issues caused by nickel. Yes?
Is titanium really inert? Titanium?
Yeah, it's pretty inert.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just like a lot of things I was mentioning. A little bit of nickel is probably not bad. I think you need a little bit of nickel in your body. A lot of nickel is bad. I'll go through this one very quickly. Silicon, basically healthy people at 0.6 parts per million. Deceased at 0.2. Just as a note here, healthy arteries have 14 times silicone that unhealthy arteries have. 14 times, which makes the arteries a lot more flexible. Your skin's a lot softer if you have enough silicone in your body. Your hair is thicker. Your nails don't break. So silicone is important in our diet. There is a silicone supplement you can get some places on the market. It's called BioSil. My wife takes it, and it's made a difference in her hair. Her hair was getting very, very thin. Her nails were breaking, so it's made a difference. I'll talk about silver. Basically, healthy had 0.7. Deceased at 0.3. Silver is one of these elements that I think you need a bit of silver in your body to stay healthy. So that's where silver jewelry as opposed to costume jewelry. The lower level is sick individuals could have been caused by, most of these sick individuals are in the hospital. When you're in the hospital, they take your jewelry away. We know silver is absorbed through the skin, like a lot of metals. And you can buy silver dietary supplements that are marketed to help your immune system. So silver is good. In some cultures, they sprinkle silver on the food. You know, so it's something that is necessary. So this is an individual, the left-hand side, no silver jewelry at all. This is a silver level in his hair. Then he puts one piece of silver jewelry. A month later, you test it. Sure enough, the silver's showing up in the hair. 2 pieces of silver. Silver, again, is showing up even more. So silver does go right through your skin. Now, my colleague, the stubborn Egyptian scientist, decided that silver was not good, in spite of the fact that silver seemed to be more in healthy individuals. A big source of silver in your body is your amalgams. Those dark fillings you have in your teeth, that's silver. There's a silver-mercury amalgam. Silver is leaching from that into your body. So on the left-hand side, in August 2006, my colleague decides, I'm getting rid of all these silver amalgams. I don't want them in my system. They're toxic. So he goes to the dentist and starts a process. $15,000, I believe it costs, to remove all these fillings. So August 2006, he goes, and they start drilling. The next peak is a little bit higher. When you drill, you're dislocating a lot of this silver, so it's going into your system. You swallow some of this stuff when you're being drilled upon. So it goes up a bit, but eventually it comes down. In November it gets drilled again, it goes up, and then it comes down. But the process is coming down. By January 2007, he's got very little silver left in his fillings. So whether we know it or not, there's silver, if you have any of those dark fillings, it's leaching into your body. Not necessarily bad. We talked about having enough iron or copper in your system. Copper deficiency. If you don't have enough copper, will cause iron to go up. But cholesterol goes up, blood pressure goes up, uric acid goes up, impaired glucose tolerance, that's your diabetes, sugar issues. High copper concentrations have a positive correlation with coronary health. So if you have enough copper in your system, there's a good chance you're going to have good coronary health. Now I'm going to talk to you about something that very, very few people have looked into, researchers, and we have a cancer researcher in the audience here, so maybe she'll look at this. But rare earth elements, we call them rare earth because some of them there's not a penny's worth in the whole world. That's rare. But some of these rare earth elements are not that rare. Some of them are more abundant than copper, so they're there. And they're present in a lot of things we looked at, in high levels. Things like green tea. We all heard green tea is good for you, and I'll be talking about green tea in a few minutes. But green tea, things like goji berries, high rare earth elements, and cumin, your curries, all contain good levels of higher rare earth elements. And those who take these green teas and goji berries on a regular basis, if you're healthy, I do not see it in your hair. Your body holds on to them. And they go to your bones, your bone marrow, which is where your immune system is. So that's where they accumulate, and they stay there. However, if you're sick, I should say also, we looked at these rare earth elements. We tested a rabbit, a rat, a horse, dog, cat, monkey, elephant, parrot, lion. We see it in every one of them. We don't see it in humans. And one of the things is, I think humans, one of the reasons is we hang on to these things, part of our immune system, and we live longer than most of all these animals. But we looked at all of these. They have rare earth elements, are very plentiful. It's in their diet, but showing up in their feathers or in their whiskers and so forth, we don't see it in humans. So we are different. We've evolved differently. So we don't see it in humans, but if, the only exception, there's one exception, if you smoke. If you smoke, we see it in your hair. And tobacco has a lot of rare earth elements. So plants accumulate and concentrate these things. Tobacco has a lot. My theory is smokers, some of you are probably smokers in the room, should all be dead by 30. 1900s, the chimney sweeps in England, they were all dead by 30. They were taking in carcinogens, the same kind of things, benzoate pyrite, PAHs, that you're taking when you're smoking. I think the rare earth elements are probably saving you from an early death if you're a smoker. Eventually it get to you, but I think it's my theory at this point. Turmeric, basically it's what's in your curry, and there's one country in the world, it's a big part of their diet, and that's in India. And you looking at India, has 20-fold over America, 20-fold decrease in prostate cancer, 8-fold decrease in colon cancer, 10-fold decrease in kidney cancers, 8-fold decrease in bladder cancer, and 7-fold decrease in lung cancer. If any of you have been to India, the big cities, they're pretty polluted, but they still have much lower cancer rates, and there's a lot of speculations it's coming from turmeric. Now the rare earth elements chemically are similar in structure anyways to barium, calcium, magnesium, so they go to the bones as I mentioned, but they're also replace other elements like iron, zinc, copper, manganese, important elements in our system. And they accumulate in the bones. Once they're there, it's really hard to get rid of them. But as I said, we do not see it in healthy individuals. Now I had a cousin that had a brain tumor this spring. And he was diagnosed last year about this time. He had an operation, they took part of the tumor out, and they told him you need chemotherapy or you're going to die in 6 weeks. And he said, I'd rather die than be sick with chemotherapy. So he didn't take chemo. And he lived till, I guess he died in June. So he lived 6 months longer than they expected. But I looked at his hair, he gave me a hair sample, and it looked perfect. Everything looked perfect. He was a non-smoker, non-drinker, ate good food, didn't abuse his body, and I looked at it, you know, I couldn't see anything except the rare earth elements. They were high. So something was happening, was fighting the cancer as best it could, but it was a very aggressive brain tumor and he passed. So this is another case where rare earth elements were the only thing that were elevated. High aluminum, basically, where's it coming from? Well, it could be drinking water, it could be cooking pots. High aluminum in the air could also be low zinc. Remember I talked about zinc and aluminum? Healthy at 13 parts per million. The sick and deceased, twice that amount. High lead, we all know lead is toxic, it's poisonous. A lot of it comes from glazed ceramics. Be careful of things that come in from China, nice colored ceramic glasses, or Mexico. But the one thing that people don't think about is crystal. We all love crystal. And a lot of people store brandy in crystal carafes. It's deadly. In 2 weeks that brandy is loaded with lead. Crystal is 22% lead. It's beautiful, it's elegant, but it can be very, very toxic. If you're having one drink in crystal, that's fine, but don't have it sit in crystal for weeks, because Health Canada has done the studies. In 2 weeks, you've got 300 to 400 parts per million lead in that whatever you're storing in a crystal. So do not store things in crystal. The other thing that happens is drinking water. I live in a century-old home. The province of Ontario has mandated all municipalities must test the water in old houses. Because 100 years ago, 150 years ago, my house was built in 1870. There were lead pipes going into the house. So the city comes by, you knock on the door, we need to test your water. I said, sure, come on in. So he runs the water, tests the water, and they come back 2 weeks later, and they knock on my door. They say, sir, do you have any children in the house? I said, no, the children are all gone. They said, oh, that's wonderful. I said, why do you ask? Well, you're above the allowable limits of lead in your drinking water. I said, how about me? I'm taking this water. And how about my pets? My pets are all sick. I've got pets. I had a parrot that lost its feathers. I got a dog that's losing its hair. And, they've been drinking tap water. So I spent $8,000 to dig the pipe from the house to the street, dig it up, and sure enough, there's a piece of lead pipe in the house. Right now, all modern houses, the solder on your pipes is tin. 20 years ago, it was still lead. So if you have an older house, run your water a bit before you drink it in the morning, because you probably will have some lead contamination. I talked a bit earlier about sodium and potassium. Normally, it's a 2 to 1. But if you have short-term stress, if I was to tell you tomorrow you have to work with Ramiz, that would cause stress. Then all of a sudden, you start to sweat. I got to work with Ramiz. And that stress, your sodium starts to go up. So it'll go from 2 to 1, it'll go to 10 to 1. Or if I told you I had 6 months to live, you're stressed, it'll go 10 to 1. But after a while, your adrenal system is exhausted, the sodium comes down, comes down, comes down. It'll come down lower than potassium. Now your potassium is higher. The sodium potassium is what comes in and out of cells. Your heart's pumping sodium potassium in and out. And so when your potassium is higher than your sodium, your heart's beating stronger, harder. And that's where you end up long-term stress with the heart attacks. So that's something to be aware of if you're ever looking at hair analysis, sodium potassium levels. Try to stick to that 2 to 1. Now, part of our research, we looked at samples from a war zone. We see this on TV every day. There's war zone, something's happening. We received 70 samples from the city of Basra in Iraq. And Basra was under the British control. They had, a lot of shooting, but it didn't last long. So I looked at the samples. 60% of the samples contain uranium. Why would these cities have uranium?
Use of depleted uranium.
They're using depleted uranium ammunition. These countries, they don't have wood walls, plastic siding like we have. They have concrete. And the armed forces will all deny it, but they're using depleted uranium, which will go through concrete. So you're hiding behind a concrete wall, this will go through concrete. It's radioactive, it causes a lot of cancers. So if you look at Iraq, the cancer rate in children, leukemia, is probably 10 times higher than it is here in America. It's very, very high. I was in the Middle East 2 years ago, and they were showing me studies that were measuring the uranium in the teeth. We do it in the hair, but they were looking at it in the teeth, and they were finding the same thing we were. So war zones are not places you should visit, because this uranium has polluted the countryside, and it's going to be there for a long time. High number of samples have elevated strontium. Now, where in the heck would you get strontium? Well, you all see these war pictures. They're shooting, and the flare bullets they're going, that's strontium. So not only is it polluted with, strontium is not necessarily bad pollution, I'm just saying it's showing up in the people. Large number of samples had high sodium, low potassium. I just talked about that stress. Yeah, I'd be stressed if I was living in those conditions. High number of samples had elevated iron. Not good. That's that stress I talked about, oxidative stress. They're generating more free radicals than the body can handle. Started a lot of serious diseases. All the samples had good levels of selenium, which is good. It'll prevent some of the cancers.